Okay, what's going on? What's going on, people? It's your boy Justin Griever, aka Young Mummy, the mother of the streets. Yo, now we do it. All right, moving along, people. Welcome to Pagan Christianity. Why the Jesus accounts are unreliable, part 3. So last time, if you remember, we discussed the Pauline epistles, and we're gonna move ahead and get into some gospel things. You know what I'm saying? Sound like fun? Well, even if it's not, you don't have a choice, because I decide. All right. So, what we're gonna discuss. We're gonna talk about a contradiction. Which one specifically? We're gonna go with the big contradiction of epic proportions. We're talking about specifically the what do you call it? The ministry narratives of Luke, Matthew, and Luke. Okay, because they're pretty cray. I mean, they're not only are a contradiction, they both feature stories that uh, are without question fabricated. They're completely fabrications. Okay, so to anyone who says the Bible is inerrant or anything to that effect, you're insane. I mean, I'm I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you are. Okay, so yeah, so okay, and I got a shout out to my man, Rabbi Tobias Singer, or as I call him, Tobias Singer, the truth bringer. All right, because some of the insight I I took from him, some of the insight, particularly uh, surrounding. You'll see. He's really amazing, and if you're a scholar of any sort, regardless of your beliefs, I would highly encourage digging on him. He is number one, baby. Okay. All right. So, okay, moving along. So, so in the first written gospel, Mark, there is no infancy. Oh yeah, sorry, not the ministry gospel. We're doing the infancy gospels or infancy narrative. So in Mark, there isn't any. He starts off with the ministry portion, uh, uh, and then we move on to Matthew, and Matthew and Luke, they both they do have uh, uh, infancy narratives, but they're very contradictory. You're probably familiar with some of the stories in Matthew. Oh, first and foremost, um, both authors. It's clear that they both want to establish Bethlehem as the birth city of Yeshua, birthplace rather. Why? Well, we can only surmise because King David is from there, and the Mashiach uh, is prophesied to be of King David lineage. So that's speculation, but that's almost certainly why. And both writers, both the author of Matthew and Luke, they both want to tie Yeshua to Nazareth. Um, uh, why? Well, we'll discuss that in a bit. Like I said, Rabbi Singer, he's got some good insight and input in reference to that. So, okay, so in Matthew, as you know, or perhaps don't, uh, the birth date of Yeshua is 6 BCE or perhaps before. Why? Uh, because the author fabricates a story that we usually refer to as the Massacre of the Innocents, or in Christian theology, the Massacre of the Innocents, which almost certainly did not happen, or I think I could say definitively didn't happen. Okay, that's a story where King Herod decided, upon hearing the news that of Yeshua's birth, decided he would take it upon himself to murder every young boy aged 0 to 2 in Judea. Why? Because he didn't want to lose his kingship. So, you know, the author of Matthew thought it was quite slick, and I thought he put one over on us. Nah, buddy. But why did he do this? Why did he fabricate this story? Well, we could rationally surmise because Mashiach is supposed to be king, among many other things. There's this whole plethora of things that are supposed to happen when he comes, and attributes that will have certain characteristics. And one thing is he's supposed to be king of the world, okay? And did that ever happen? No. There was never a time in history when every government stepped down. Every government leader in the entire world stepped down and said, you are our king. Okay, that didn't happen. So to reconcile that, he added that part in. Okay, so King Herod died in 4 BCE. So if we're talking about killing boys 0 to 2, we could subtract 2, we would go back 2, and we're at 6 BC. Okay, so he places the birth at 6 BCE. It theoretically could have been earlier, but let's just go to 6 BCE. They're in their home place, Bethlehem, and they have to boogie. They got to boogie, baby. They got to boogie to Egypt and chill there until Herod dies, and then they get caught. There's more mess. King Herod's son takes over, but they ultimately get to Nazareth. So mission accomplished. Okay, he tied him to Nazareth. He established the birthplace as Bethlehem, and he even in a very disingenuous manner, even tried to establish that he would have been king, right? So he's trying. We'll discuss Matthew later, but throughout the entire gospel, he's trying to convince people that Yeshua is indeed the Mashiach, the prophesied Mashiach of the Tanakh, and he does a complete butcher job of the Tanakh, and he completely corrupts so many things. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Okay, so now we move on to Luke. So Luke, very different story. Similar in the sense that he wants to tie or connect him to Nazareth, and he wants to establish the birthplace as Bethlehem. So, contrary to the one before, this starts off in Nazareth, and in terms of time period, we're looking at the other one was 6 BCE or perhaps earlier. In Luke's account, we're looking at 6 CE. So we're looking at 10 years later, if not, theoretically it could be more, but we're looking at a 10-year gap. And how does the author get him to Bethlehem? So he does it also by concocting a ludicrous story that never happened. It's just insane. And he asserts that there's a census. There's this empire-wide census, and in order to answer the census, everyone has to go back to the place of their ancestral birth or what have you. Everyone has to go to their ancestral home. All right, home place. To just for some perspective in reference to how in, insane this claim is. So I was born in Toronto, and I live in Toronto to this day. So for me, this wouldn't be such a terrible proposition. It was, but let's say I wasn't. Let's say I was born in Vancouver. All right. So in order to fill out this census, I could fill out at home, no problem. Okay, just checking a couple boxes. All right, how income per family, how many in the household? I get these very simple questions, but no, it can't be that simple. I have to take time off work. I have to stop filming these videos, which you enjoy so much. You're gonna probably have a nervous breakdown. So that's the worst part about it. I'm gonna have to pay airfare to and from Vancouver. Okay. I have to get a hotel in Vancouver. I don't know anyone in Vancouver. I have to do all these things just in order to answer a census, which I could just as easily do right here in my home in Toronto. Okay, so it's insane. I've heard, of course, I've heard apologetics come up with these, try to justify, try to, make arguments in favor of this. Come on, get real, get real. Okay. Both stories are total fiction, total object, quintessential fiction. Okay, so. And in terms of the date, we're looking at 6 CE because he said it was when Quirinius became emperor of Syria, which is corroborated to be 6 CE. So, yeah, they go to Bethlehem, and that's his method. That's how he's tied to Nazareth because it starts out there, and he gets him to Bethlehem by virtue of this insane, totally fictitious story about having to go to your ancestral home to fill out a census because apparently the answers are different. Apparently the amount of people living in your household changes if I'm standing in a different location. It's ridiculous. It's complete nonsense. Okay, so there you have it. Those are that's the essence of both infancy accounts. Now, there's something else. So I mentioned what's his face, Rabbi Toai Singer, the truth bringer, and he made some interesting points. He said. In his estimation, so that as we know, there's this phenomenon, primarily among atheists, but not exclusively, and they call it mythicism. So these are people that believe that Yeshua, Jesus, never existed, that he's an appropriation of one or many dying and rising gods of antiquity, or something to that effect. Okay, there's various theories floating around the ether. And it's really growing. I was a mythicist at one point. I thought that, this character never existed. But no, I believe he definitely was a true, authentic, historical figure. I just believe a lot of what's written about him, certainly in the in the epistles and the gospels, is not accurate, right? So that's the purpose of these videos, right? I don't think in his life, I don't think he made huge waves. I don't think he made a huge impact. Why do I say that? Well, there's no contemporaneous documentation. I mean, well, if one would surmise if he really, made such a profound impact on society or what have you, certainly someone would write it down. And not only that, it wasn't until 70 CE at the earliest that someone decided, hey, we need a gospel account. So it's a very dubious proposition that he, made a profound impact, but he probably was a real person. He probably had some influence, some modicum of influence. Um, and there probably was some oral tradition. There probably was some narrative passed down about this guy, about Yeshua of Nazareth. So why did they? So he, Rabbi Singer argues, the fact that both authors feel compelled to tie him or connect him to Nazareth is an indication that he existed. Why? Because he probably lived in Nazareth. That's it, right? And he mentions Occam's razor, which of course I'm a big proponent of. Okay, the explanation based on the least amount of assumptions is usually the accurate one. It's probably just that simple. According to this oral tradition that was passed down, it said he lived in Nazareth, and Nazareth was a very, very teeny tiny town. Not much happening there, but like I said, why? What would the impetus be otherwise? If not that, I mean, they wouldn't be doing it to make it appear that prophecy was fulfilled, because it's not mentioned anywhere in the Tanakh. It's not written. It's not mentioned anywhere. Not in the Talmud. Nowhere. But it's not written anywhere in the Tanakh, so that can't be the impetus to be, to try to trick you into thinking prophecy was fulfilled. So it's probably that simple. It's probably he was born in Nazareth. The real, authentic Yeshua was probably from Nazareth, and he was probably crucified. Now, the gospel story where the Pharisees come and they convince Pontius Pilate to allow a convicted serial killer to go free so they could crucify Yeshua in his place, despite the fact that Yeshua had not committed a crime and in fact did something that Pontius Pilate would approve of, which is blaspheming Yahweh. He would, Pontius Pilate, being a Greco-Roman polytheist, would approve of that. He'd be happy to hear that. That almost certainly didn't happen. That's almost, I'm quite sure that's fabrication, but he there's a good chance he was really crucified in real life. And Rabbi Singer talks about this. Back then, they didn't, they had crucifixions relatively often, but one of the biggest reasons was for treason. Okay, and they, because this method of execution can really serve as a deterrent, because everyone can see it, right? As opposed, it doesn't happen in some dark room somewhere. This happens out in the open. You're on some type of wooden something. Okay, there's a lot of arguments in reference to what the structure actually looked like. Was it a cross? Was it just like a T? Did they, the Jehovah's Witnesses say it was like a post in the ground or something? Okay, but so there's contention as it pertains to that, but no one's disputing the Roman Empire did practice crucifixion. And here's the thing: at the time when Yeshua would have lived, in the, what do you call it, the praxis of Judaism, there was this movement that was quite popular, Armageddon Theory, or Apocalyptic Theory, Jewish Apocalyptic Theory. So he probably was a proponent of this. And Apocalyptic Theory states that, they kind of forego with the Messiah part, and they say God's going to have this one judgment on earth, and then he's going to establish his kingdom on earth. Okay? So if he was going around, and espousing that the Roman Empire was going to crumble because God was going to establish his kingdom on earth very soon, that would qualify as treasonous. He was telling people the Roman Empire is going to crumble. It's going down. It's going down, baby. All right, it's going down. Then that certainly would constitute treason. They wouldn't like that, and they would execute him. So, uh, almost certainly a real person, and there's a very good chance he was crucified, but not in the manner that the Gospels purport. That's incredibly dubious. Mm-hmm. All right, all right. So, is that it? I think that about does it. It's just one contradiction out of myriad contradictions, but this one is extra spicy. You know what I'm saying, as it pertains to the blatant fabrication. This one's just a little extra spicy, so I thought we'd focus on this one. Y'all. It's your boy Justin Creever, aka Young Mama, the Mother of the Streets. Take care. Peace.